The Virginia Museum of History and Culture welcomes you to the virtual 2026 We the People Virginia State Finals Awards ceremony. For almost 4 decades, We the People has stood as one of our nation's most effective civic education programs, not simply teaching students about the Constitution, but equipping them to become active, informed participants in our democracy. What makes this program truly special is its approach. Rather than just memorizing facts, students engage deeply with constitutional principles through critical thinking, civil discourse, and the program's signature simulated congressional hearings. These hearings ask students to grapple with the same questions that have challenged Americans for generations, such as what are the proper limits of government power? How do we balance individual rights with the common good? Students analyze, debate, and defend their positions, and in doing so, develop the habits of mind essential to citizenship in a constitutional democracy. Today, we celebrate students who have embraced these questions with remarkable depth and dedication. To kick off our awards presentation, we're delighted to share a special greeting from Virginia's junior Senator Tim Kaine.
Hey everybody, Senator Tim Kaine here. I want to greet all students and faculty and parents and others who support the We the People competition as our middle schoolers and high schoolers from around Virginia gather for the state finals at Randolph-Macon. The We the People contest developed to really deepen citizens' understanding of the Constitution is a wonderful, wonderful event. My own kids went to the Richmond public schools and went to schools that were very active in the We the People movement. And I call it a movement because it's more than just a contest. It's really an effort to inculcate in our students a deep reverence for the Constitution, an understanding for its provisions, and including some of the painful provisions that mark a nation that's been in progress, hopefully toward a more perfect union, but stumbling and finding flaws and sometimes correcting them along the way. This is a really important year, the 250th year of the American Declaration of Independence, and no state was as central to the events of 1776, in my view, as Virginia. And so I suspect that the contest this year is going to have a particular resonance. The issues that you're going to be talking about are critical as we watch the news every day and see, for example, people peacefully protesting immigration activities, people being arrested, people's homes being entered without warrants. You see people being criticized if they're carrying weapons with concealed permits. Recent events in Minnesota have raised questions about the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, and some of the amendments dealing with the necessity for fair trials. And so these constitutional provisions are not part of a dusty history book. They're everyday priorities that we have to continually recommit ourselves to if we want to maintain our status as a democracy after 250 years. You participating is really important because you'll be the U.S. senators soon, you'll be the governors, you'll be the mayors, you'll be the advocates who will determine whether the American 250-year democratic experiment carries forward in a healthy way or not. So thanks for committing yourself to this. It's an intense competition, I know, but I also know it's one about friendship and teamwork and fun. Thanks to the adults who've spent time working with the teams, and have a wonderful, wonderful competition.
We're grateful to Senator Kaine for joining us to recognize the work of these outstanding students. Before we recognize our students, we want to acknowledge the people who made this competition possible. Our volunteers are enthusiastic about civic engagement, and we are deeply grateful for their commitment to this program. When we needed to pivot on a week's notice due to school closures, they answered the call, many of them pushing themselves to learn new technology in order to ensure that we were able to host this life-changing event for students across the Commonwealth. We truly appreciate the time and energy of the judges, facilitators, and timekeepers for this year's virtual We the People competition. Thank you to each and every one of our volunteers. Each year, we have the honor of presenting the John Sponski Civic Champion Cup. The John Sponski Civic Champion Cup is meant to recognize a volunteer, teacher, or student who exemplifies a strong commitment to building civic engagement within their community. We've named this award for Virginia Civic's Chairman Emeritus, who is one of the greatest supporters of civic education. He tirelessly supported the We the People program for 15 years, first as a volunteer, and then as a friend, an advocate, a donor, and a founding director of Virginia Civics. His dedication to education, to service, to community, to country, and to each of you is what inspires this award and is what we used as the standard by which we selected its recipient. To introduce you to our Civic Champion for 2026, a We the People alumnus, Randy Fitzgerald, would like to read his nomination letter.
Thank you to Amelia Beauchesne and the Virginia Civics Board for inviting me to speak to you all today. My name is Randy Fitzgerald, and it is a personal privilege and pleasure to join you here as we recognize a true American patriot for the John Sponski Civic Champion Cup. I am honored to tell the story of my nominee and how she has shaped my life. As I prepared to write this nomination, I thought of myself as a recent alumnus of the nominee. I was rudely awakened when I realized that the year I spent in my nominee's classroom was the year in which their current middle school students would have been born. God bless America. Being a middle school teacher cannot be easy, and it certainly isn't glamorous. It is likely the most cumbersome classroom age to deal with. There's a biologically baked-in rebelliousness for tweens and teens of rejecting the status quo, making things one's own, and our newfound hunger to tear things down, kind of like the American revolutionaries. Teaching 13 and 14-year-olds the importance of our United States Constitution, the necessity of respect for our institutions and respect for one another, and engendering a genuine patriotic spirit among them in our current landscape of hyperpartisanship and biased media narratives is no cakewalk. Add into the mix the competition for attention as teachers struggle for their students to focus on their course and their assignments, struggles which exist both inside and outside of the classroom. And things only get more challenging and more complicated. At a middle school focused on outplacement into magnet STEM programs, trying to get students to meaningfully study government and politics is an extremely tough row to hoe. Enter the 8th grade civics teacher, tasked with planting the seeds of patriotism for the harvest of a lifelong reverence for our civic institutions, all to be packaged and delivered in 85 minutes or less, twice a week. This is the story of my 8th grade civics teacher, my nominee, Cindy Burgett. She has met the moment. Nothing about her is the bare minimum. She doesn't just teach to the test, which, on state-administered standardized testing, her students consistently attain exceptional marks. But she cultivates and inspires something far deeper than just a test. It was in Cindy Burgett's classroom that I was first introduced to the concept of the independent judiciary and the importance of the rule of law. She sincerely believes in the guarantees of our enshrined fundamental rights, the concepts of due process and equality under the law, our representative legislature, our model of federalist power sharing between the states and the federal government, and the checks and balances between the different branches of government. She doesn't just talk about it because she teaches it. She really loves it, and it shows. Cindy Burgett set me on a life trajectory of advocacy for that rule of law. I went to law school twice, earning 2 degrees, first a Juris Doctor, or a JD, and then a Master of Laws, or an LLM, passed the bar and was admitted to practice law as an attorney, and completed a 3rd graduate degree in which I researched and published on the topic of comparative judicial independence in Latin America as a liberal democratic safeguard. This all traces back, for me, to Mrs. Burgett's classroom. In a time in our national politics when we are increasingly afraid of having tough conversations or discussing the heavy issues that arise in our constitutional republic, Cindy Burgett is encouraging students to disagree and training them in the art of civility. Cindy Burgett students don't just discuss what they think about issues, but they also are challenged to consider why they think the way they do. And she eagerly presents her students with follow-up questions to encourage them to think critically about the bigger picture. It's not about her winning, it's about the students learning. Cindy Burgett's classroom is a reminder that there will always be people who think differently, but that we must all respect each other and our equal rights and dignity under the law. I still can't figure out who she voted for in the election the year that I took her class. Having completed 4 degrees at the university level in government law or social sciences, this is a rarity. I have taken many courses with professors who were expressly candid with their views on candidates or random political thoughts. But in Mrs. Burgett's classroom, if you argued one stance in her class discussion, she would argue the opposite. Left or right, up or down, she knew then what she still knows now. What matters? The importance of teaching us how to respectfully disagree with each other, regardless of what our views are. She lives the prescience of showing us that we can have and should feel comfortable having the important conversations of our civic society. Cindy Burgett frequently invokes the storied friendship of the late Justices Antonin Scalia and Ruth Bader Ginsburg to show all of us that we can disagree on virtually every issue and still be friends, that we can still recognize our common humanity and still find joy and collegiality in our shared interests. She encouraged us to remember that there is more that unites us than divides us. Cindy Burgett embraces that reality, that civil disagreement and discourse are at the bedrock of a healthy civic society and essential for the longevity of participatory democracy. That Scalia-Ginsburg friendship, which I first came to learn about and appreciate in Mrs. Burgett's classroom, has become a guiding light for me as I have progressed through college and law school and pursued a career with roles in politics, government, and the practice of law. Since leaving Cindy Burgett's classroom, I have worked or interned in all 3 branches of the federal government, including the federal courts, the U.S. House, and even the White House. For me, all of this derives from the passion that Cindy Burgett helped to develop for me for the Constitution. Nobody in my family was a lawyer or had a job in politics or studied democratic theory in their spare time. I was just a 13-year-old with a penchant for skipping school, calling in sick, and a knack for espousing spicy, poorly researched political opinions. And now the rule of law is my principal client. I recently began my career as an attorney in the General Counsel Office of a cabinet agency in the United States federal government. I get to wake up every day and serve my fellow Americans, just like Mrs. Burgett. Every time I pass or go into the United States Supreme Court, I think of Mrs. Burgett and how she would talk about her fellowship experience with the late Justices Scalia and Ginsburg, 2 giants of the legal profession and American law. When I was with Justice Sotomayor just a few weeks ago, as she discussed her enthusiasm for the civics platform, the iCivics platform, I couldn't help but think back to how my 8th grade civics teacher, Mrs. Burgett, sewed iCivics into our curriculum. I haven't been in Cindy Burgett's classroom in over a decade, but I can still remember the details. The pictures around her desk of her daughter, who she'd proudly, as she says, spoiled rotten. The copious amounts of green pens for self-grading our tests. The Washington football decor. Clarence the troll, named after the angel from It's a Wonderful Life, with his stuck-up pink bushy hair. And most vividly, I still recall her wide-eyed excitement for the Constitution and her patriotism for our country. When Thomas Jefferson envisioned taxpayer-funded public education in the 18th century, he recognized that an educated populace with civic competence was essential to our radically egalitarian system of voting in our new republic. For this reason, the most important task presented to the public education system is to prepare young people to function in our society and participate in our civic life. After all, in America, the framers concocted the radical concept that power doesn't flow from a king or a crown or a religious or moneyed or hereditary lineage, but from we, the people. The liberal democracy envisioned by the framers a quarter millennium ago demands that all of us as civic participants understand our rights, our privileges, and responsibilities in our exceptional system of government. Indeed, in our 250th year as a nation, the most important task of our grand taxpayer-funded education system is still teaching American youth civics. And Cindy Burgett has met and exceeded this high demand throughout her career. Cindy Burgett is an exceptional civic champion in her community who deserves every recognition for her multiple decades of public service, commitment to our nation's founding principles, and sincere patriotism. It is my humble hope that Cindy Burgett's recognition as this year's recipient of the John Sponski Civic Champion Cup may help to begin to acknowledge the outsized career, life, and legacy of Cindy Burgett. Thank you so very much. Congratulations to you, Mrs. Burgett, and thank you.
Congratulations to Cindy Burgett. Your continued dedication to We the People is an inspiration for your students, your fellow volunteers, and to us. Thank you for all that you have done for civic education. Families and students don't need to be reminded about the impact of the next group of people we would like to recognize, the teachers who have guided our teams through the We the People program. Long hours and hard work go into teaching thought-provoking lessons, providing feedback to students, engaging with parents and families, hosting practice sessions, and this week, coordinating the switch from an in-person event to a virtual We the People competition. We would like to recognize this year's We the People State Finals coaches. From Albemarle High School, Allison Ramirez. From Bishop Ireton High School, Christine Rear and Marie Markison. From Douglas S. Freeman High School, Rob Peck. From Glen Allen High School, Skylar Van Valkenburg and Ryan Conway. From Maggie Walker Governor School, Sam Olmschneider. From Oakton High School, Elliot Waxman. From Western Albemarle High School, Pam Curry. Thank you to all of our incredible We the People teachers. Next, we're going to acknowledge the achievements of our students. Students, each and every one of you should be proud for participating in the We the People State Final. This program goes above and beyond the standard curriculum. Students must learn to critically analyze the Constitution, listen to opinions that may be different from their own, and engage in a deep study of America's history and founding principles. The adults who have had the pleasure of watching you learn, engage, and present leave this competition hopeful for the future. First, we'll start with our unit awards. These awards go to the highest ranking, highest scoring unit team for each school. For Albemarle High School, the unit award goes to Unit 1. For Bishop Ireton High School, the unit award goes to Unit 6. For Douglas S. Freeman High School, the unit award goes to Unit 5. For Glen Allen High School, the unit award goes to Units 3 and 4. For Maggie Walker Governor School, the unit award goes to Units 1 and 2. For Oakton High School, the unit award goes to Unit 5. And for Western Albemarle High School, the unit award goes to Unit 2. Congratulations to each of our unit award winners. You have so much to be proud of. Finally, we have our team awards. We will recognize first through 5th place. 5th place goes to Albemarle High School. 4th place goes to Western Albemarle High School. For 3rd place and higher, your team will receive a class trophy and individual medals. And we are happy to announce that Virginia has a wild card position at the We the People National Finals. That means that both our 2nd and 1st place teams are able to compete in nationals. If either team chooses not to pursue finals, our 3rd place team may represent the Commonwealth. 3rd place goes to Glen Allen High School. 2nd place and Virginia's wild card spot goes to Maggie Walker Governor School. Which means our Virginia We the People State Champion is Douglas S. Freeman High School. The We the People National Finals will be held in Washington, D.C. from April 17th to the 19th. Coaches will receive further information soon. We wish the teams from Freeman and Maggie Walker the best of luck. Congratulations once again to all of Virginia's We the People high school competitors, and a heartfelt thank you to our volunteers, coaches, students, and supporters. Thank you.